Okay. And I can always clip different parts, which is what I'm planning on doing.
Okay.
So thank you for being here, Kainana. Could you introduce yourself and tell us your name, where you come from, and where you live now?
Sure. So aloha, my name is Kainana Francisco. I'm from Hawaii Island. Grew up in the districts of Hilo and Puna. And I currently live in Puna, in the Ahupua'a of Waikahekahe, which is like the subdivision of Hawaiian Paradise Park. Yeah.
And you touched on this a little bit, but what is your Vai, Mauna, and or Ahupua'a where you connect to the most?
So the places that I connect to the most are the mountains of Mauna Kea, Mauna Loa, and Kilauea, through personal connections, and then professionally, I'm also connected to Hualalai, just because of the places that I get to go to for work out on the Kona side. And just in the area that I live in, this Ahupua'a of Waikahekahe, in the district of Puna, on the east side of the island. The waters that are nearby me that feed me are the Moaniani Lehua rain. So that's what fills up my catchment tank. And the ocean areas nearby me that I'm connected to are Kumukahi, which is the easternmost point of Hawaii. And the area down by Pohoiki, Kapoho area, which was a little bit impacted by the recent lava flow. But those are areas that I grew up in, down by the ocean, out here in Puna. And then in Hilo, I'm connected to the freshwater ocean areas, the brackish water areas of the Keaukaha area.
Thank you. And what is your job title at the moment, and where do you work?
I currently work for the USDA Forest Service, which is a government agency. We do research here in Hawaii, and I work there as a natural resource specialist.
And so as a natural resource specialist, what are some of your roles and responsibilities, and what does an average day look like for you?
So as a natural resource specialist, I help support all sorts of different research projects, education programs, youth outdoor education programs. And some of the projects that I work on in the research realm are looking at the health of ohia. So we study ohia forests, ohia trees, and particularly looking at if there's a natural resistance in the ohia to the ROD, the rapid ohia death, the two fungi. So I help support that project. And then I'm also helping to support a new community-based subsistence forest area out at Pu'ua'awa'a. So that's another exciting thing that I get to do, is help the community and the organizations that are part of that landscape, that help steward that landscape, helping them to dream up, envision, and then implement a community forest in that area.
And what made you interested in the career that you've chosen?
I've always been interested in science. That was one of the things in school that I really like to study. I like to take different science classes, and I think that came from always wanting to be outdoors and just being outside and learning about things, like learning why things work, why things are the way they are. And so just sort of that love of being outdoors, growing up outdoors, growing up by the ocean all the time and hanging out in the forest, and sort of just learning, I guess, being like growing up, like being taught that the things that we care about, like it's our kuleana, it's our responsibility to take care of those things. And so for me, that was, like taking care of the environment. And so, being able to go to school to learn how to do that, learn about how science can help you take care of the oceans and the forests and the animals and plants and all those kinds of things. I think that's what really drew me to this field that I'm in conservation. And in research in particularly, I think being able to do research, like science research, helps you to learn what's going on in the environment, what's going on in the world. And if you know what's going on, if it's an issue, then, you know, like you'll be able to maybe figure out what's going on and how to help take care of that issue, or how to help solve something, or how to do things better. And so I guess that's what I'm really drawn to and why I got into what I'm doing today.
Absolutely. It's really creative, and you can look at the world and find questions and problems and figure out ways to answer them yourself. That's also why I love the field. Can you tell us about your academic pathway and what kind of degree or degrees you've pursued to get to where you are today?
So I guess the different types of schooling that I had, you know, right after I graduated from high school, I went to UH University of Hawaii at Hilo. And I kind of bounced around in the beginning because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to study, or like what was going to be useful for me to study. And so I went to the program that I was most familiar with, which was the agriculture program. And I was familiar with that because that's what my dad studied. And so my dad was a non-traditional student. He went back to school later on in life. And so this is kind of when I was like, you know, late elementary, intermediate, early high school. My dad was going to school. And so I would get to hang out with him at his classes, or he'd take me to his classes, or, you know, he used to work at, he was an aquaculture person. So we'd always be at the ag farm in Panaeva, you know, and I would help him clean the fish tanks, me and my sister. You know, he'd throw us in the big fish tanks and we'd have to go scrub the walls or catch the fish. And so, you know, I think growing up, like being around the college campus, it helped me become comfortable with that setting and familiar. Like when it was time for me to go to school, I was like, oh, I remember this building. Like I remember sitting in that classroom with my dad, or I remember working at the ag farm. And so I think naturally I wanted to go into what I knew, or kind of what I was familiar with. So I started off in College of Ag. And I kind of just took a bunch of different classes, probably my first year or so. Just things that interested me, maybe not the major in particular, but particular classes that interested me, I would take them. And then, you know, like I would get different internships. So early on, starting my first year, met a lot of different people, you know, took classes from all kinds of professors. And that just helped me explore like what my options were in terms of what I was going to study or what I could study. And then even meeting folks that like had jobs in conservation, or teachers, like just talking story with them, and, you know, like learning, like if I wanted to do this, what kind of degree would be helpful? What kinds of classes should I study? You know, and so just kind of talking with everybody and getting a feel for what's out there, and just exploring, you know, like exploring the different kinds of science I could do, different ways I could be involved in conservation. That was super helpful. And I did that again through the classes I took, the people I hung out with, the programs I was part of, internships I signed up for, all just exploration. And probably like my probably around my junior year is when I finally settled on my my major. I had bounced around a couple of different majors early on in school, but I ended up going with majoring in environmental science, and then minoring in biology and Hawaiian studies. And for me, that was a good fit because, you know, environmental science sort of gave me like that broad, like I wanted to not focus on one particular thing. And so to study the environment as a whole, like the system as a whole, that was really helpful. And then knowing like certain, you know, taking particular classes in biology, like ecology, or taking certain classes in Hawaiian studies, you know, like learning the language so that I could understand, you know, when we talk about certain places or plants, you know, being able to understand how the language works and how that can give you insight into maybe the resources in that area or how people live in that area because of the environment. All those things together, I think, helped me to be where I am today, and do my job as a natural resource specialist. So anyways, I got my major in environmental science, and then right after that, I had an opportunity to continue working with one of my professors. And so I went straight into my master's degree, again at UH Hilo through the Tropical Conservation Biology and Environmental Science program. But yeah, that's my education path to where I am today.
You mentioned internships. Were there any types of professional development experiences other than the internships, or even just talking about the internships themselves, that kind of helped you get where you are? And if so, like the internships, what were some of the skills that you gained there that you felt were important for the rest of your career?
Yeah, so for me, there were two really important programs that I was a part of while I was in my undergrad and a little bit in my grad schooling. But that was the Kahaloa internship program. So at the Kahaloa internship program and the Kipuka Native Hawaiian Student Center at UH Hilo. So those two programs, I guess, really served as like a support system for me, not just academically, but just socially as well. Like, they were both programs that I was part of that provided like educational resources for me, like educational assistance if I needed a tutor, or if I needed someone to maybe look at a paper for me, or talk to a counselor that, kind of knew who I was personally and helped me pick the classes that, would most benefit me, not just check a box off. Those places really provided that for me. And then I guess on like a level of like exploring what I wanted to do and, like where I wanted to go in my schooling or in my career, just being around people that also, I guess, were like-minded and wanted to engage in discussions that also helped me kind of think of who am I, what is my role in my community, what's my function in my community, like how am I, like what are the benefits that I received, and how do I want to give back as well with what I want to do in life. So being around people like that, and engaging in those kinds of conversations, I think really helped me stay on track and not get distracted. And just that constant reminder of like, we come to school, yes, to better ourselves, but like like the overall goal is to be able to come out of school, with some kind of education or some kind of training so that you can get a position that not just only helps you and your family, but it's going to help your overall community, and it's going to help uplift them, uplift the environment around you, and help everyone be able to thrive in Hawaii. And so, yeah, being in those kinds of circles really helped me, again, stay on track, be dedicated when, come back to navigate me again if I kind of got a little bit off track. Just that, I guess, moral support and a community, a village or something, like along those lines, that just, they're there for you when you need help, kind of a thing.
So really,
I think that was super important to me.
It was a really great way of putting it, and I think really important to remember as we all go along our paths is, how is what we're learning going to help us serve our communities no matter where we are. It's really important. Besides kind of helping out, or maybe this is a part of it, but what is your favorite part about your job and your least favorite part?
I love my job, and I love everything that I get to do. I think my most favorite part about what I get to do at the Forest Service is the people that I get to work with and the places I get to go to. I think growing up, like my family is one of those families that, like, we stay where we live, in our places. And then, you know, to venture outside of those places was like, you know, a vacation or a journey. So like, you know, we stayed in Hilo and Puno. When we would go to the other side of the island, like if we went to Kona or Kohala or even Hamakua, Waimea areas, you know, like that was, you know, that was a field trip. That was exciting because we were going to places that we don't normally hang out. And so I think being able to, through this job, you know, being able to connect with communities and landscapes that are outside of where I normally hang out and where I normally just kind of be at where I am, that's exciting because it kind of brings back that whole, you know, the memories and the feelings of like going places that I've never seen before, never visited before, and making new friends that way. So that's an exciting part of my job. And then again, the people that I get to work with. I think the projects that I help support, you know, there's a lot of opportunity for young up and coming early career conservationists to, you know, build on experiences. And so I get to help, you know, I get to help recruit and put folks in those kinds of positions. And so giving opportunities to local kids to build experiences, I think that's one way that I am hoping to give back to my community, because that, you know, somebody else in my position, you know, before me did the same for me. You know, like they took a chance on me and gave me an opportunity to, you know, try out this new work that I've maybe never done before, or go work in a place I've never worked in and gain skills, knowledge, experience, connect with people. And so being able to provide that for other local kids has, I think, helped fulfill one of the things I think why I am in the position that I am in. So that's been pretty cool. I don't know if I have any like non-favorite things to do in my work. Yeah, I mean, because it's all important.
That's great. You're the only one. You're the only one without a favorite.
Yeah, I mean, there's things. Yeah, I mean, there's things I wish I could do more. Like, yeah, you know, the computer work isn't my favorite stuff to do, or like, would I rather be doing other things? Sure, but it's important. And so I wouldn't say that I don't like doing it. I like doing it because it helps me be productive. It helps me contribute to our programs and our teams and stuff like that. But I guess maybe I can answer your question in a different way. So what do I wish I could do more? Right. So what do I wish I could do more in my job? I wish I could spend more time with our interns and our kupu members out in the field and just like being on the land and, you know, taking care of like pulling invasive species and planting plants and camping. And I wish I could do that more, because that was something early on in my job, early on in my career, that I did more just because of my different role or the different roles and responsibilities I had maybe at the start of my career. But things have shifted. And so, you know, I've been given different kinds of responsibilities. But on a day, you know, when we get to like do that, for me, that's like the fun stuff, like taking a break from the computer, getting to hang out with the team, camping, and just like being out on the landscape and, you know, doing physical stewardship activities. For me, that's fun. And I always look forward to doing those kinds of things.
Definitely. Last question. What advice would you give to your middle school self?
My middle school self, I would say Kainana. I would probably tell myself, what would I tell myself?
Can be related to career things or not related to career things, or both.
Okay. Okay, so I think if I could talk to my middle school self, I would tell myself to study hard, have fun, hang out with your friends, take those opportunities to go cool places and learn, and meet new people. Like, don't be afraid, just kind of jump in. Like, when the opportunity is there, don't be afraid to say yes, because you never know, where those opportunities will lead you. And just, I guess, make the most out of every moment. Like, don't take anything for granted. Yeah. You did a good job. You'll get there. Keep going.
Mahalo, that was great.